are pleased to present the highlights of the KPPC broadcast of El Rancho's victory over Anaheim in the CIF Championship Finals, which took place in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum on Friday, December 16, 1966. El Rancho will receive. Anaheim will kick. The El Rancho offense will be number 81, Dave Patterson at end, Gary Preby at right tackle, Bob Arciaga at right guard, Jeff Jorgensen at center, Brad Fielder at left guard, Ruben Quintero at left tackle, Ed Perez at left end, and a backfield of Rick Pope, quarterback, the halfbacks Manny Chavez, Bob Castrolon, and Guy Pico at fullback. The kickoff, here is Dick Beals.
Chavez, Endomano and Gallego is deep, and it goes to Chavez on the 6-yard line, and he goes straight up the middle, going off to the right now. Chavez gets one block, gets away from one man, finally brought down on the 26-yard line.
Hello, I have two resources for this portion of the video. One of them is, of course, the film that you've seen a part of, and or you are looking at in the moment, and you can see it has very poor quality, very poor blurry, very poor resolution, and it is not complete. It's not a film of real-time action. It has been abbreviated. This makes it impossible for me to attempt to coordinate some audio recording that was done in real time, that was placed on a record in 1966. That audio recording also cherry-picked different plays, so it is impossible actually to coordinate that that voice that you have just heard, indicating the action of the kickoff. So that's unfortunate, and I don't know if someday we'll get a good quality copy of the film. I certainly couldn't locate one, but I feel that it perhaps is better to be able to see something than nothing. What I've done is I've parsed the film into the 4 quarters and, of course, the halftime. I've indicated with sort of titled inserts, first quarter, second quarter, halftime, third quarter, and fourth quarter. I've also indicated the running score at the time. I have also attempted to indicate the touchdowns, the scoring plays, and I'll recite them to you here briefly. But you'll see them as you're looking at the film of the game. In the first quarter, there were no touchdowns. There was no scoring. It was thought, I think, by the pundits that it would be perhaps a very sort of low-scoring game. Both teams had excellent defenses, and it was quite possible that no one would score. This seemed to be what happened in the first quarter. No, there are no touchdowns. But in the second quarter, there were 2 touchdowns, one by El Rancho. Pope throws a 2-yard TD pass to Dave Patterson, and Jim McPherson kicks a successful PAT. And then the second touchdown in the second quarter was by the quarterback Ochoa. He ran 5 yards for a touchdown. And then, of course, he was their extra point kicker, and so he has a PAT. I've indicated that in the film. And preceding the action, actually, so that you can actually see it as well as one can with, again, this poor quality film. In the third quarter, there was only 1 touchdown by El Rancho. Quarterback Rick Pope throws an 8-yard touchdown pass to Manny Chavez. And that's followed with another successful extra point by Jim McPherson. The fourth quarter was filled with all sorts of action. It had actually 4 different scoring plays, 3 by El Rancho and 1 by Anaheim. The first 2 occurred in the order that I'm reciting here. Pope will throw a 2-yard touchdown pass to Manny Chavez, followed by a Jim McPherson PAT. And then Ochoa, the quarterback, will be replaced by Fassel, Fassell. He's apparently moves the ball downfield. He will successfly throw a 4-yard touchdown pass to the receiver, wide receiver Dalich, Dalich. And Ochoa, of course, is their extra point kicker, and he'll add another point there. In the fourth quarter, the third touchdown that is made is done in the last minutes of the game, actually at 2:09 in the game. Rick Pope looks like a world-class sprinter. He has a successful 52-yard touchdown run. It looks pretty spectacular, and the original photographer of the film repeated the play, so you can actually see it twice. And then, of course, Jim McPherson adds the extra point. And then in the last 32 seconds of the game, Fred Tippett, who replaced Rick Pope as quarterback, will make a 2-yard touchdown run. And, of course, Jim McPherson again will add another point. It's hard to see some of this action, but once you more or less know which quarter it is and what the scoring play may be, you can better see the action. And actually, if you look at it multiple times as I have, you begin to actually identify people in the game. But it's very difficult to narrate this in a direct fashion, given the quality of the film. So what I've decided to do is just read some articles that describe the game. Two of them, they're more broadly a description of the game, and then a third one which has a number of comments by the different players of the El Rancho, on the El Rancho side. All three of these articles that I'm reading were published in the newspaper. The first one will be from the Daily News. They were all published on the following day, December 17th, 1966. This article in the Daily News by Chuck Governale, he's a Daily News sports writer, goes such. That explosion you heard shortly after 10 p.m. last night wasn't a nuclear detonation or a jet breaking the sound barrier. It was Rick, the Riddler Pope, destroying Anaheim. Pope, who had already riddled Anaheim's defenses with 3 touchdown passes, bolted 52 yards over left tackle with 2:09 left in the game to cement unbeaten El Rancho's first CIF-4A championship, 35-14, in the Coliseum. The long-scoring strike gave his mates a 28-14 cushion 25 seconds after the colonists had closed the margin to 21-14. After that, the Dons went on to add a 5th touchdown, but for all purposes the ball game was over when the 6'3" senior quarterback hit the end zone. In winning the 4A crown, the Dons won in winning the 4A crown, Coach Ernie Johnson's veteran contingent broke a CIF record with its 13th victory of the season. Anaheim suffered its first loss in 13 starts before a jury of 25,049, the largest gathering at a CIF finale since the colonists and Downey fought to a 13-13 tie in 1956. 3 was a charm for the Ranchers, since this was their 3rd bid for the coveted trophy after absorbing losses in the title games of 61, that was to Redlands, and 63, that was to Loyola. Defeat for the colonists marked the 4th time Coach Claire Van Horbeck's Hexed 11 left the Coliseum without victory. The Colony settled for that tie with Downey, but subsequently lost to Loyola in the 62 finals and the same Cubs in the 64 semis. El Rancho thus succeeds 1965 champion Mater Dei to the throne and becomes the second Rio Hondo area team to win the big school's grid title in 3 years. Whittier High captured the trophy in 64. The heroes were many for the victors, but Pope and defensive halfback Dan Guerrero, a 155-pound Johnny on the spot, may have stolen the show. Pope tossed a 2-yard touchdown pass to Dave Patterson for the first Don score in the first period, and found halfback Benny Chavez in the end zone in both the third and fourth periods for tallies. Pope's 52-yard dash in the Dons' wild 21-point fourth period more than adequately refrigerated the victory. But second-string quarterback Fred Tippett engineered the Dons' fifth six-pointer, sneaking over from the 2 with 32 seconds remaining on the clock. Guerrero picked off 2 John Ochoa thrown aerials, tipped another Anaheim pass into the arms of teammate Dave Patterson, and for a third ERHS interception, and recovered an Anaheim fumble. The first pickoff led to Pope's first pitch to Chavez. The fumble recovery set up Tippett's score, and the Patterson interception poured salt into Anaheim's wounds on the second-to-last play of the game. Pope had some trouble getting untracked in the first half, when he completed only 3 of 12 passes, but the CIF candidate showed his mettle in the second half, hitting on 9 of 12 tosses and a night's total of 133 yards. He was afforded excellent protection by the Dons' forward line of Ruben Guitero, Gary Prevey, Brad Fielder, Bob Arciaga, and Jeff Jorgensen, and Fielder also turned in, and Jeff Jorgensen. Jorgensen and Fielder also turned in their usual stellar defensive performances. Making tackles and plugging holes, linebackers Fielder and Jim Collins contained Anaheim rushers to only 69 yards in 27 carries on the ground. On the defensive line, John Camarillo, Russ Coy, Vic Larson, and Gary Orwell turned in typically rugged Don showings. The Dons outgained their foes 305 yards to 204, driving 177 yards on the ground and 136 by air. Pope, rolling out superbly, led the attack on both routes, gaining 85 running and 133 passing. He carried 13 times for a 6.5 average. Chavez picked up 41 yards in 15 trips, and Pico added 38 yards in 12 tries. Ron Ferris paced the Anaheim Grounders with 34 yards in 10 carries, while fullback Jerry Mullins toted 23 in 9 tries. The Colonists were playing their third consecutive game without star fullback Tom Fitzpatrick. Ochoa was off his target most of the evening, hitting on 6 of 14 tosses for 71 yards. Second stringer Jim Fassel was more effective with his throws. He completed 6 of 11 passes for 76 yards and a touchdown to end George Delic. The score was the Colonists' second in the game and occurred while the Orange Countyans trailed 21-7. On the ensuing kickoff, Ochoa attempted an onside boot, but Sid Ferguson fell on the ball for the Dons at their 48. On the next play, Pope romped those 52 decisive yards, and the Dons were the new champions. The scoring wasn't over, however. In a bizarre final 2 minutes, the colonists drew 4 personal fouls that cost 55 yards and 3 ejected players. In fact, Anaheim drew personals on Pope's run and on Jim McPherson's ensuing conversion, and El Rancho was allowed to kick off from Anaheim's 30-yard line. The Dons turned the tables, kicking on onside, and when the ball bounced off an Anaheim receiver, Guerrero recovered at the Anaheim 24. 5 plays later, with the help of another 10-yard assessment against Anaheim, the Dons added their 5th score on Tippett's sneak. As was the case throughout the Dons' glorious season, Enns Patterson and Ed Perez were Pope and Tippett's favorite receivers. Patterson hauled in 4 for 57 yards, and Perez made some crucial stabs on 5 passes for 62 yards. Anaheim's first fumble set the stage for El Rancho's ice-breaking score in the first quarter. Early in the second period, Pico pointed to Dave Moss, who hobbled and lost the ball to Carl Shadle of the Dons at the Anaheim 39. Pope directed the Dons the 39 yards in 9 plays, tossing to Pico from the 2 with 6:10 left in the half. A 20-yard pass to Perez, carrying to the Anaheim 8, highlighted the drive. Anaheim rebounded for the game's only a tie when Ochoa capped a 47-yard 7 Batman formation drive, rolling out left from the 5. The Batman spread worked successfully against the prepared but flabbergasted Dons. Ochoa completed 4 passes in the march, the longest being an 18-yarder to Chappie Looney at the 5. Controlling the ball for most of the third period, the Dons were invincible as Pope guided a 12-play, 74-yard march that climaxed with the first strike to Chavez, wide open in the end zone, with 2:41 left in the stanza. Pope completed 4 times in the drive, hitting Perez for 13 yards and Patterson for 10 and 28. And the second reception, positioning the Dons at the 8, 2 plays before the TD. Guerrero pulled off his second interception. Moments later, but unable to move the ball, the Dons punted to the Anaheim 18. 2 walk-offs totaling 14 yards hurt the colonists as they tried to escape their deep territory. Ochoa hit Looney on the colonists' final Batman pass of the night, but after hitting David Teague for 15 yards, Ochoa's third down pass was nearly intercepted by Collins. The Dons regained possession on the punt, and again General Pope directed the victors. This time, 63 yards and 14 plays. Chavez grabbed the ball at the back of the end zone. Fassel then sparked the colony to its second score, completing 6 aerials and driving his mates 66 yards in 13 scrimmages. The score closed the gap to 21-14, but Ferguson went to work on the ensuing onside kickoff, and on the next play, Pope was off to the races. End of article. The title of the second article from the Herald Examiner is by Ralph Alexander, the title being 25,049 Sea Dons Ramble. He writes, Rick Pope, El Rancho's brilliant quarterback, was the difference. Anaheim coach Claire Van Horebeck admitted this morning as he reviewed last night's disastrous blow to the pride of Orange County. El Rancho convincingly pummeled Anaheim 35-14 and took home the Herald Examiner Perpetual Trophy, emblematic of the CIF-Southern Section 4A Division Football Championship. That big Pope hurt us, said Van Horebeck, in what surely must qualify as one of the understatements of the year. We were afraid of that prior to the game, Van Horebeck continued. He's a great player. Van Horebeck analyzed the game correctly. Pope passed for 3 touchdowns and broke the game wide open with a 52-yard TD dash late in the fourth quarter to give the 25,049 fans most of their thrills. The hard-running, sharp-passing, 6'3", 195-pound quarterback was definitely the hero of the game. He accounted for 218 of El Rancho's total 305 net yards in as brilliant an individual performance as has been staged in a 4A division final in the past several years. Pope was the game's leading ground gainer with 85 net and 13 carries for a fancy 6.5 average. He completed 12 of 24 passes for 133 yards. After a so-so passing exhibition in the first half, during which he completed just 3 of 12 aerials for 31 yards, Pope was sensational in the second half. Following the intermission, Pope connected on 9 of 12 bombs for 102 yards and netted 61 yards, rushing to crush the colonists. Quote, we reached our peak in the modern-day game, Van Horebeck said. Our boys were really up for that game. You just can't turn on that spark like you can a light. I told a couple of our coaches last Friday that we would be in trouble against El Rancho. I don't want to use this as an excuse. Ernie Johnson, El Rancho coach, has a fine team. If you close in to stop their running, they kill you with a pass. If you back off to defend against the pass, they hurt you running. There couldn't have been a finer guy win it than Johnson. It doesn't hurt so much to lose when it is to a great fellow like him. He's tops. Johnson, who last night coached El Rancho to its first 4A division championship, thought Van Horebeck hit it on the nail in his appraisal of Pope. Pope was pressing in the first half, Johnson said, but he came back to do a great job in the second half. I always say that in the final game, the team that gets the breaks wins it. I think we got them. Our passing game won it for us. The crowd of 25,049 was the second largest for a 4A division final in the last 17 years, 13 of which were played in the Coliseum. The biggest was 41,383, which watched Van Horebeck's Mickey Flynn-led Anaheim 11 battle the Randy Meadows-paced Downey High to a 13-13 deadlock in 1956. El Rancho lost to Loyola in the 1963 finals before 23,632. The only other prep finale to attract more than 20,000 customers. El Rancho, however, is not a one-man team. It's a terrific unit, one of the finest ever to be presented, the Herald Examiner's Sterling Silver Cup that is presented each year to the 4A division champion. Pope had 3 excellent receivers in Dave Patterson, who caught 5 for 73 yards, Edmund Perez, who snared 4 for 46, and little Manny Chavez, who made 3 receptions for 15 yards. End of article. This final third article from the Daily News, written by Art Aguilar. The title is Dawn Celebrate Greatest Victory. It's filled with quotations from the jubilant victors in the locker room. It's an interesting perspective. I'll read it. A boisterous El Rancho football team celebrated its greatest victory in Don history in the locker room last night after its 35-14 conquest of Anaheim in the CIF-4A finals. Pandemonium reigned, with players hilariously pounding each other on the back and congratulating themselves on the satisfying victory. Reporters converged on a hoarse Ernie Johnson and his coaching staff, the men who led El Rancho to their first 4A championship. "We're very happy," Johnson said. "All the boys played a great game." Commenting on Dan Guerrero's 2 key pass interceptions, he said, "Dan did a good job and has done a good job for us all season." Continuing, "We made a few defensive changes in the second half, but most of the times they gained yardage on that Batman formation. We just stood there like our feet were buried in the mud." Other dressing room conversation went like this. Rick Pope: "It was a great team effort. The defensive line was great, and so was the offensive line." Referring to his 52-yard touchdown run, "We caught their backs stunting and just picked them off with great blocking." On Anaheim's performance, they were a good team, but they lost their poise in the second half. Fred Tippett: "Pope was magnificent, and so was the team. We couldn't have played for better coaches." Dave Patterson: "I'm just glad we won." Jeff Jorgensen, center: "It was a real privilege to play Anaheim. We had great coaching from Coach Johnson and his staff. We owe everything we accomplished to the coaches." Gene Farrell, assistant coach: "This is great. It sure was nice to win." John Camarillo, defensive end: "We showed them that we were tough. Too bad we couldn't have played modern day." Jim McPherson, end: "This is great. I'm very happy. It was my greatest thrill. I was 5 for 5, meaning his conversions." Ed Perez, end: "I have nothing to say except that I am just happy. It was a great game." Manny Chavez: "It was tough. They sure hit hard." Guy Pico, back: "They were a good, hard-hitting team that really tried." Gary Orwell, defensive end: "I just think that we are a real good team. We came through when we had to." Jim Collins, linebacker: "Great." Frank Montera, assistant coach: "I thought we rose to the occasion when we had to and played like we had to win. It was nobody's fault that they lost. We just put them in situations that they couldn't get out of." Franz Miller, guard: "This was a great team effort. It took everyone to win, even the guys that didn't play. We won it for the coach because he is the greatest coach there is." Bob Arciaga, guard: "They were a pretty good team, and they gave us a battle. It was the best game we've played." Gene Krejci, principal: "For the boys and the coaches, it was a long time coming and was an outstanding victory. We are very proud of the team effort, and I know that the entire community is proud of the spirit exhibited by these boys in this game." Dr. Joe V. McLean, superintendent of the El Rancho Unified School District: "I would just like to say that this CIF champion is probably the greatest team that has ever played in the CIF." Perhaps a feeling of the whole team was expressed by halfback Bob Castrian, who said, "We have proved that we are the best team. There is no doubt about it." End of article.